thank you for coming to this presentation, a virtual tour of Ely Cathedral. It's a bit of an ego trip for me because I just wanted to show my pictures from the trip to Ely. But I'm going to give you a little history, and hopefully it will pique your interest, and maybe you'll go someday. If you haven't already, how many people have been to Ely Cathedral? Raise your hand. What? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, well, if you raise enough money and you pay my way, I'll take you all there. Someday. Does everybody have the little welcome booklet? That's what you would get if you went originally. It's at 95%, so it's a little wonky, but it's kind of nice. And you take that home with you as a souvenir. So, we didn't get to, I don't even know if we figured out the Facebook thing, so you may or may not be being recorded. So please, no yelping and, catcalling, looking at you, Annette.
Too late.
It's good to be with you. Let's say a little prayer. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you so much for beautiful places, for places to worship. Thank you for community where we can laugh and eat and praise you together. Thank you for new people coming through the doors, and thank you for people who have kept the faith in this space for decades. Bless us all in our time together as we learn a little bit about one little corner of your kingdom on earth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so this is a virtual tour of Ely Cathedral. And William and I went to England and Belgium and the Netherlands in June. And so we were in Cambridge, and on the Monday, the 20th of June, I took a train from Cambridge to Ely, which is about an 18-minute ride. William chose not to go with me, strangely enough. I think he needed a break. We'd been together for 5 days. But he also said that he had been to Ely twice already, so he just wanted to take the day off. So I found my way to the train station in Cambridge, took the train over, and then walked up to the cathedral. I mean, it was pretty easy. You just sort of go uphill. About a 15-minute walk. And as you go along, if you take the way I did, you're going through a nice park. I think there might have been a little creek or something. And then suddenly you make a little turn and you see what you see up on the screen there, this sort of magical, kind of looks like a castle. And that is Ely Cathedral. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. There'll be a lot of photos later, but I'm going to front load some of the history because I kind of want to get it out of the way because, the pictures are, and the history is actually quite interesting. So your little pamphlets will come in handy at that point. So, Ely Cathedral. Where is Ely? It is right here. Can you see that? Can you see my little cursor? Yeah. So there's Ely. So there's Cambridge and there's London. And if you ever get to Lincoln, Lincoln has a beautiful cathedral as well. Oh, so good. So that's where we were. Bury St. Edmunds. Jane Ogle has family there too, or friends. Yeah, family. She'll be there later this year, right?
Yes.
Maybe she'll bring back. Maybe you're going to do a little cathedral tour in at the end of the year. So Ely is right there. It's pretty small. It's actually not it's surprising such a big cathedral exists there. Okay, so why is it called Ely? Well, it's spelled E-L-Y, and the photo at the right is a clue. Ely's name is derived from the Anglo-Saxon word Elig, which means island of the eels, which sounds like a horror movie. But it's not. They were once a delicacy, a la escargot. Doesn't that look appetizing? Back in the day, Ely was an island. The Isle of Ely is the highest point in the surrounding fenlands, and was, as I say, formerly an island surrounded by marshes and swamps, which dried up over the years. It could be reached back then only by boat or causeway. So it was named, when it was built, it was named the Ship of the Fens because it was on top of this hill, on this island, water all around, and you could see it from far, far away. And it was like a ship floating along the land or in the sky. So that's an old nickname for it. So if you look at your handout, the page that says facts and figures, I'm going to go over some of that with you now. It's You see where it says facts and figures on one side? Not with the diagram, but the other side. A little challenging, isn't it? So a couple of things about Ely. I'm just going to go through these. The history of Ely Cathedral dates back to the year 673 when Etheldreda, a Saxon queen, founded a monastery on the site. We'll hear more about her in a little bit. Etheldreda, by the way, is quite a name. Isn't that a great name? I was thinking it's like a heavy metal band. Etheldreda. But it's a great name and certainly unique. And there's also like a Welsh pronunciation. I've seen it spelled different ways, but you'll hear more about her in a moment. Ely Cathedral was a prominent Benedictine monastery and the second wealthiest in the country. It was closed by Henry VIII, that scoundrel, in the year 1540. The West Tower, let me just go back. The West Tower is the big tall one over here. Now, do you know, so let's take a second, look at the diagram that I've given you, this big old thing. I'm going to give you a super quick tour of how a cathedral, a classic cathedral or Ely Cathedral works. So you see at the bottom, number 1, it says that's the Galilee porch, it's the main entrance. That's actually a later addition. And then you see the number 2 there, it says West Tower. On the screen, that's this big one here. And you see how there's a little turret there, a little kind of round turret? That is the southwest transept. Now, if you see there's like a shadow, there used to be a northwest transept, but it crumbled. It was going bad, so they tore it down. So when you look at Ely now, there's like this big center west tower, and then one side, and then nothing on the other side. It's okay. Before that little porch was added, it was a beautiful facade. I mean, people loved it. And then as you go up the page, that long part of the cathedral is called the nave. I'm just going to tell you. The nave, and that's the one that classically is like an upside down ship, right? We're all traveling together on this journey in the boat of faith. And then you see how it makes a cross. So one thing about cathedrals is when you look at the altar is always at the east. So if you're ever lost, this is not going to work actually. Never mind. Worship happens at the east of a cathedral. So often the narthex, if you will, the entrance is in the west. And then you slowly go up to the holy altar, okay? So at the very top of your diagram, that's east. West is where you came in. So there's a north transept and a south transept, the parts that make the cross part of the cathedral, okay? And in Ely Cathedral, the very center is where the main altar that they use is located. And up that center is this beautiful octagon tower. You're gonna see a lot of photos of it in a little bit. And then if you go up from the crossing, there's an area called the choir. And you know what happens there? The choir sings. You guys are really quiet today. All right. Thank you, Peter. So it's all right, but the choir is where the choir would sing. And you know, you see those classic, we'll see a photo. They face each other. They have the little candles. They sing evensong. So that's where they would sing. And then further north from there, at least in Ely Cathedral, is a spot where Etheldreda, she's a saint, and there were pilgrimages to her. That's where her shrine used to be. But other than that, there is a main high altar up there, way at the top, that isn't really used. I mean, the main altar's in the center. And then if you go behind it, you see the number 11, number 14 at the very top. Is a back chapel. It's St. Etheldreda's chapel. So that's kind of a little diagram of the cathedral I wanted you to note. And if you look at the green to the north, that big square is the Lady Chapel. We'll hear about that later towards the end of this. Okay? So that's your general kind of configuration. All right, and so you see the picture on the screen. That's the West Tower. This is the octagon tower in the center, and then the east with the high altar is over here. You see where my squirrel is. Okay, back to the eels. All right, so, and back to your facts and figures. So, the West Tower is 215 feet high, and it was closed when I was there. They had some repairs to do. I think it was only open on Saturdays. That's okay. The Octagon Tower is often acknowledged as one of the wonders of the medieval world, and you'll see why. It's a unique structure, and it was made in 1342. It's 63 feet high. There's probably even a little more than that. And then the Lady Chapel, I'll tell you about that. And I think that's all I want to show on there for now. Now, you all still with me? Do you see where the timeline is at the top of that diagram? Again, I'm going to sort of go over this with you quickly because I'm more interested in showing you pictures. 673, the first monastery at Ely was founded by Etheldreda. She actually died only 7 years later. I'll tell you more about her, as I say. But monasteries and abbeys remained in the area. In 970, a Benedictine monastery was founded. Then the Normans came around. Actually, they came around for quite a while. Now, I just found out, Normans are Vikings from Normandy. Am I right about that, yes, historians? I had no idea. Yes. So, they're the Vikings of Normandy, which is in the northwest of France, where I'm going to be in 3 weeks, sorry. So I'll tell you more about that. I know. So the great thing about Ely is when the Normans/Vikings, when the Normans came to invade, Ely was on an island and it was pretty well protected, right? There was marsh all around so they could kind of protect themselves. And it took the Normans a long time to conquer it. And you'll see the year 1070, Hereward the Wake, that's another good name, defends the Isle of Ely against the Normans. Well, he lost. But it was one of the last places standing, I believe, in England that kind of resisted the Normans. So the Normans conquer, and what's the first thing they want to do in Ely when they conquer? They want to show off that they, kind of, well, I can't think of another way to say kicked butt. And so they say, let's build this big cathedral in the middle of nowhere, kind of. Because Ely, when you go there now, it's pretty small. It's kind of surprising. There's this gorgeous thing, and then there's like a little kind of street of shops. But that was their kind of bragging. So they start the Norman building, Norman style, and let's see, bishop was appointed. It's completed in 1189, so it takes about 100 years. And it says in 1212, the Galilee porch was built. That's basically that front part by the west entrance, by the tower I was showing you. Let's see, the big thing is in 1322 that there was a central tower made of stone. Before that Octagon Tower, it fell, boom, and I'll tell you more about that. And the Octagon Tower replaced it. The Lady Chapel was completed in 1349. Coincidentally, Black Death arrives in Ely. Lots of that going on. The West Tower was extended in 1395, etc., etc. 1653, Oliver Cromwell closes Ely Cathedral for 11 years. And then in 1699, what I told you, part of the north transept collapses. That's actually the north transept, the middle, where the cross is, that part, a little bit of that collapsed. So that's all I'm going to tell you about history, except for what comes around. Okay, so let's focus on this. Yes, Cheryl?
Did Cromwell try to knock it down as he did with other cathedrals?
No.
Smash the windows or anything?
So
did they pay him off?
Well, I took 2 tours while I was there, and I swear I remember one of them saying, because it was sort of his hometown for about 11 years, he kind of had a soft spot for it. Is it that simple? But I think the stained glass windows are from the 19th century. And there were some statues lopped off, but I think, Father Bill, do you know?
Well, they destroyed the Mary Chapel in many respects, but that had already been started with the Reformation.
Okay. So during the Reformation in the 1500s, the Lady Chapel, they were banging that up, and then the Puritans kind of came and ended it. But the cathedral itself was pretty left intact. Maybe hometown boy, he had a little soft spot, I don't know. Okay, we're going to focus on the story of one famous figure, Saint Etheldreda. She lived in the year 636. She died on the 23rd of June, 679. She was all of these things: an East Anglian princess, a Fenland and Northumbrian queen, and the abbess of Ely. Her father was strangely named King Anna of East Anglia. I had to put, like a boy named Sue, a king named Anna. Her sisters were Wendreda and Sexburga of Ely, both of whom eventually retired from secular life and founded abbeys. They sort of took over. She died just after 7 years after she got to Ely. Oh, I had to make a joke. I'm sorry. I hope this doesn't offend anyone. The left one is her Facebook profile picture, and the one above is the National Enquirer smear article. So, watch out when you get photographed. But she was amazing. I'm going to read you a little bit about her. Well, there's been a church in Ely since Christianity first came to England. It's around 673, as I say, the monastery is founded. About 70 years later, a Saxon princess enters the religious life, Etheldreda, daughter of Anna, as I say, and like her father, she became an ardent Christian. Etheldreda's story is told in a series of 8 sculptures on the octagon pillars. I have no pictures of those because I didn't realize. She always felt called to the religious life, but for political reasons, she was married first to Tonbert, leader of the people called the South Gurwas, who gave her the land and royal rights to the Isle of Ely. So she was kind of the owner of it. And after his death, she got married to Egfrid, heir to the kingdom of Northumbria. So her marriage to Egfrid was not happy. And after 12 years, she actually got his consent to retire to a convent to become a nun. However, Egfrid soon regretted his decision to let her go, and he set off in pursuit of her. But Etheldreda escaped, which is kind of a great story. She's like on the run, and she makes it to Ely. She escaped him after a hazardous journey, arrived safely back in Ely, where in 673 she founded a double monastery for men and women. She was abbess for only 7 years. She died of a tumor in the neck and was buried in a simple grave. Her sister Sexburga, who succeeded her, exhumed her body and moved it into the church. Contemporary accounts relate that the body was incorrupt and that the tumor had been healed. Here's a quote: "Her linen clothes looked fresh and new, and touching them had the effect of casting out devils, and the wood of her coffin cured blindness." So not surprisingly, she was soon acknowledged as a saint, and Ely became a place of pilgrimage, a tradition that has recently been revived. They have the St. Etheldreda Pilgrimage Day on June 23rd, which I missed by 3 days. Missed the party. So St. Etheldreda is the founder, and she was awesome. She was a real, I don't know, right? She's just like, I'm not gonna say married to you. I'm out of here. All right, wait, run. Found a convent and abbey. So she's great. I loved hearing her story, and I love seeing Etheldreda. So, next. Jan Cathedral. So what I did is I posted these photos on Facebook, and some of these captions are basically what I put on Facebook for your entertainment. Jan Cathedral, only a short train ride from Cambridge. William didn't join me. He'd been there multiple times. Again, this is on the walk from the train station. It was a moody, cloudy morning. Isn't that nice? So this is the facade. That door in the front there, it's actually, you see how it goes? This is the Galilee porch. That's newer. But the southwest transept is there. There used to be another one on this side. That's the one that fell, taken down in the 15th century following a partial collapse. Okay. This is the main altar. It's octagonal to match the octagonal tower directly above. If you look closely, you can see 2 heads of tourists who have been sacrificed at the altar right here. Ely is old school, I say. Do you see the heads? There they are. You know, you gotta watch it when you're a tourist. Okay. This is an example of stained glass windows. They're from the 19th century. Note, as you know about stained glass windows, they tell stories from the Bible, and they were meant to teach those people who couldn't read stories from the Bible via visuals. So I wonder what this is. Anybody? It's the Last Supper. Well said. Anybody know what this is right here? Palm Sunday, well said. And here they are laying down the cloaks, and there they are with the palms. Well done. What's happening up here? Washing of the feet. Very good. And the rest I actually don't know, so I'm gonna move on. So,
Why are the stained glass windows from the 19th century?
I don't know.
Smashed at the Reformation.
Well, they were smashed at the Reformation.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they were smashed at the Reformation. And it's funny, you can kind of tell when it's really old stained glass.
Yeah.
And this just feels more modern, and you're going to see some other stuff. Okay, so stained glass everywhere. Okay, view from the choir with the eagle lectern. So, oh gosh, go back to your little diagram. This is one. I'm not going to show you this too many times. So remember the choir, number 11, like just up from the crossing, where they face each other. So if you were to stand there and look way back down the nave, all the way to the bottom of your page to the west, that's what you see. And I'm going to tell you, do you see this up here in the ceiling, all this painting? You're going to see some of that in a moment. But this is where you would come and do a reading. And they've got, I don't know why the eagle is part of that lectern, but it's kind of there a lot. Eagle, I don't know, it's not just John's gospel, but okay, so, oh wow, there's a little arm. There's another sacrifice there. Okay, so let's move on. This is the southwest. I just took this picture. I liked it. It reminded me of those slow motion dreams where you're running from the monster down the hallway and it keeps getting longer. And that's kind of what those side aisles are like. Okay? It's beautiful though. Okay, so this is exciting. This was on display. This is the unofficial replica of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation dress. And this replica was made by Harrods, the big department store people, from meticulous notes kept by original dressmakers to celebrate her diamond jubilee in 2012, 60 years. So this was made in 2012. Now it's displayed here at Ely Cathedral to celebrate her 70th year. She just celebrated 70 years as queen, which is unbelievable. So this dress was worn by the actress Claire Foy in the coronation scene of Netflix's The Crown, which was filmed there in Ely Cathedral, even though it actually took place in Westminster Abbey. So did you get that?
Yes.
This dress is an actual replica of her gown. It was made in 2012 for her 60th year celebration. It's here now in part because Ely Cathedral was featured in The Crown as Westminster Abbey. And see, if you look here, there she is in the movie. I mean, in the show. Isn't that great? And here, I took this photo and I looked at it later. It's like Cyborg in a dress. It's like one of those like Star Trek monsters with a dark head. Isn't that right? Okay, no one's really buying that. Okay. It's a beautiful dress though. All right, moving on. So that's down by the west entrance. Okay, now I'm going to take you on a tour. So remember the ceiling of the nave. So there are 12 painted ceiling panels, and here are 6. They depict biblical scenes, and they were painted in the 19th century by 2 different artists, a guy named Lestrange and another one named Perry. Now, Lestrange came first. He died and didn't finish. So he did 6, and then Perry did the last 6. And if you start from the back, the west entrance, it's like right here, like Adam and Eve. So there's Eve coming out of, I don't know what he's coming out of, the earth. And then here is, whoops, original sin, the snake, the tree of life, or of good and evil. And I believe this is maybe Aaron making a sacrifice at an altar. So those are the first 3 of the 12, and it's that earlier artist. Then these are the last 3 of the 12, and this is the other guy, and it's much more ornate. So here's the, oh goodness, the Holy Family, right? Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. Here she is holding him as a baby, and we leap up to him in heaven. So, but you see how the difference, the first style is really a lot simpler, and the other one is much more kind of full of details. To me, it looks sort of Arthurian legendy. But I believe there's also, you know, the pre-Raphaelites, some of their art, I don't know, maybe it looked a little bit like that to me. So those 12 all across the nave, really nice. Can y'all see okay over there? So in the very back, you know, when you first come in the west entrance, there's a baptistry. You know, people get baptized we have the font in the back too, right? It's that symbolic thing of you come into a church or a cathedral, you enter the faith community through baptism. So that's why when you come in, you take a little holy water, you're like, oh yeah, I was baptized, and here I am again. And it tends to be in the back of the church. So this modern wall sculpture, it shows the road to Calvary and the Trinity, because you can see 1, 2, and 3 along the path. There's 1, 2, this is from the tour guide, and 3. Also note, you can't see this, but the texture gets rougher as your journey grows closer to the cross. It's really smooth here, and then it gets kind of cracked, and it's sort of symbolic, right? So this is one of 3 sculptures that were revealed in the year 2000 to celebrate the millennium. I forget what it's called, but it's the road to Calvary. Okay? It looks pretty cool in person, to me anyway. Okay, so speaking of 1, 2, and 3, the Holy Trinity, note that the arch is going from single to double to to triple. By the way, not roughly speaking, one thing I know about architecture, correct me if I'm wrong, rounded arches are Norman arches in England, but also called Romanesque on the continent. Then later, the Gothic style comes around, and those are more pointed arches. And so, impress your friends. That's the only fact you need when you go to places in Europe. Okay, so notice that the bottom level, there's 1, and here, if you can see, there are 2 arches, and up here it's hard to see, but there's 1, 2, 3. They do that deliberately, right? To remind you everywhere you look of the Trinity, all right? And there, again, there's the ceiling of the nave with those beautiful paintings. That's the octagon tower we're going to look at in a moment. That's the main altar down below. And if you look through that iron rood screen, that's where the choir is in the high altar. Are you situated, kind of? Okay. View of the nave from the west end. Note the aforementioned ceiling paintings. Note the 3 levels of Romanesque arches that I mentioned. A bit of the octagon tower showing. A bit of the choir area. So as I said, I think I've said already, cathedrals kind of go like that, west to east. Nave, transept, the crossing that makes the cross, the choir with a choir, and then the high altar in the apse. There's a walkway around the outside of the choir and apse. I think it's called the ambulatory, and then there are other altars back there as well. So it's a busy place. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies, but it's just so beautiful. It's a long nave. And you can, just the length of it. Now, when there are no chairs there, there's all this marble going on there too, but there were chairs. I didn't notice as much. So this is a nifty little Elijah window. You see there he is going up in his chariot of fire. There's Elisha. On the left, a crow brings Elijah bread. That's a Bible story. I said, wish I had my very own pastry crow. That was a joke. It's all right. All right, we all need a vacation. On the right, he proves God is number 1 by Elijah's sacrifice being burned up by a lightning bolt of fire that comes down from heaven. That's in the Bible. And then in the middle, he's taken up by a chariot of fire as his cloak, his mantle drops down for Elisha to take up. He takes up the mantle. That's where you get that phrase from. Okay, so you see how they tell you stories. Okay, Elisha sort of wanted to ride too, but he had to stay behind and get some work done. Okay? That's Elijah's version of going to France, I guess. Okay, the pastry crow. Man, actually, I neglected to thank our pastry crow today, Warren Hackbar, for our coffee hour. Thank you very much. All right. This is the stunning magisterial octagon tower. That is a photograph I took. It's unbelievable, and it's hard to, you'll see, but it goes up, and I'll just keep going. But you see how this is right in the center where the crossing is. I'm basically at the main altar area, taking a photo upwards. So I took the octagon tower tour. So we got to go up, and I got to see these little angels up close, and it made me realize almost every surface has some decoration or sculpture on it. I would zoom in on this, but I'm afraid to because I might screw this up. So you see the little angels? They're like way up high, but they get all the details. And here's some more angels. So pretty nifty, and all the decoration on the ceilings. This is in the north transept, that crossing. Frayed standards. Standards are like flags you take into battle, but these are really old. See, they're all kind of worn out. I made my little joke. Frayed standards, words equally applicable to most countries these days. Political statement there. And you see, there's the main altar. So this is the north transept. Yeah, and that's the south transept way over there. All right? And the nave is that way. Okay, onwards. Outside view from our second or third level as we climb to the octagon tower, the sun has come out, which is pretty rare sometimes in that area, but it's very pretty. Some greenery all around there, these beautiful little spires. So now we're in the octagon tower. I did not understand what they were explaining. Somehow these wooden beams were angled to uphold the octagon tower. It was an engineering marvel in its day and remains so today. I'm going to show you the octagon tower pictures, and then I'm going to read you a little something. So,
When was the date?
the octagon tower? Excuse me, 1342, I believe. Yeah, it fell in, the first one fell in 1322, and it took them 18 years, so 1340. All right, so that's on the inside, like we're behind the scenes and up. All right. Now, did you see the angels earlier? Oh gosh, I'll have to show you the angels. So when we got up close, the angels surround one level of that inside part of the octagon tower. They're painted on wooden panels that open up, and our tour guide opened them for us. It was great. So you'll see in a moment all the angels. They're meant to mirror Psalm 150, where the angels praise God with timbrels, cymbals, lyres, and etc. It was really awesome to be up there. I'll show you. So I should have shown you the actual thing first, but here are those are wood panels, and they were painted. And here is another view of open angel panels with the fellow tourists inside the tower. So they look like little worshipers. Those are my fellow tour folks looking up inside. This is the inside of the octagon tower. I'm behind the scenes looking out the little doors. Do you understand that? It was so cool. Now, this might be my best photo of the whole trip. William actually did make some cards. So this is from up there. You see all the angels. They've got, you'll see later, but they've got different instruments. This is the octagon tower. We're up there. That's the nave way down there. It's just beautiful. Octagon tower with angels and windows and a cupola top. Oh, and I have a 57-second video. Do this. So just to show you, you'll see in a moment, but that's Jesus giving a blessing. And there are 6 winged seraphs around him. And I believe this is made of wood, a lot of this. And then here are just beautiful stained glass windows. Here are angels praising. And then there's more stuff below that we'll see in a moment. So let me see if I can do this. Hopefully it's still connected to this. This is a 57-second video. I hope you can hear.
This is the octagon tower. These are the painted angels all around. Way up in the middle of the Cathedral of Ely. Some open doors for us tourists to look through the stained glass windows up above. And there's the cupola, which is gorgeous. It's made of wood. And this is Jesus in the center. Upside down. Just now. And down below is the nave. Way, way down below. And there's the altar. That's scary. But awesome.
Isn't that cool? Yay! So I don't know if you noticed, there were like little red thingies on a ledge. I'm going to show you. See if I'm smart enough to do this.
Did you get up there with an elevator?
Dude,
Awesome.
It flew.
there we go. What? Do you see those little red things? Those are little poppy petals that got the thing they do on, was it Armistice Day? November 11th, or they do it at Grace Cathedral. And all these little red poppy, they're paper, but they're supposed to be poppy leaves on Armistice Day. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so some of them got caught, and there they have been sitting for years and years. And it was just really cool to see those, because they dropped them way from the top. You've been to things like this, Pat Welch.
Oh, yeah.
Right, it's a big
I'm
deal.
just enjoying, I wish I could see it. I can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I can listen.
You can, well, that's the worst part, but that's okay. So that's the video I took from up there. Oops. And there's the angels, and you see there's a symbol, and there are horns, there's more symbols, there's a lyre, and it's just so pretty. And like, who can see that? You know, it's like they cared about everything back then. And there's Jesus in the clouds at the center of the octagon tower blessing you. And you'll see this, there's the 6-winged seraphs over there. One more pick.
I can see it.
It's just beautiful. Okay, last pick of the inside of the tower. Those are the stained glass windows. And that's a dizzying view of the nave from up high. And that's the choir. And they're already set up for evensong. You see the little books already there. And look at the colorful marble. So there was the nave with all the chairs. This is the choir going towards the east. Okay? Now I'm going to read you a little something. Now, this is about the octagon tower. In 1322, only 70 years after the presbytery was finished, disaster struck. On the night of 12 and 13 February 1322, the square Norman central tower collapsed. It was not entirely unexpected, but nevertheless, when it fell, the noise and tumult were so great that it was thought there had been an earthquake. Luckily, you know, the monks go in and they pray like all hours of the day and night, but it happened at a point where they were safe and away from where that tower fell, because that's where they would be praying, in the center there. So the sacrist, Alan of Walsingham, Alan, that's a name we know, unlike all the others we've heard, he was responsible for the building. He was in deep shock and was devastated. The collapse revealed that the tower was built on unstable ground, so they decided to build outwards to find a solid base, and from that came the realization that they wanted to use wood. I'll just cut to the chase. So it was finished in 1840, and it's a masterpiece. It's like one of those engineering feats. I don't know how to explain it, but they made that work, and it's an octagon. An octagon is a symbolic shape that points to the church's belief in the eternal destiny of humankind. Its 8 sides stand for the 8th day, the time beyond our earthly time. You know, on the 7th day he rested, the 8th day, which we reckon in units of 7 days. It reminds us that this is a holy place where we enter the time of eternity. The symbolism is seen also in the decoration. It's conceived from the top downwards. This is what I want to tell you. In the center is Christ in majesty reigning over all. And around him are the heavenly hosts, the seraphim and cherubim, with the angels and archangels in the panels below. Then the decoration descends through the apostles and saints. There are stained glass windows with 4 apostles on each side, so there are 12 of them in 4 of the sides. And then it goes to the men and women who have been part of Eli's story, like Etheldreda, little kind of wall sculptures. So it's like this kind of theological thing. Jesus, angels, saints, apostles, the people of Ely who made it famous, and us worshiping at the altar at the Eucharist right at the bottom. So it's this lovely, I mean, again, there's meaning all around in these places. All right. That's the outside of the octagon tower. We're outside, and it was safe, but it was a little weird. That's the west tower. It was closed to the public. All that stair climbing made me hungry. Ely as a town is pretty quiet. This is the main drag. Not too busy. And they made, I don't know how they did it. They made my egg bagel sandwich with the yolk in the middle. It was very cool. It was very delicious. You know how the bacon tastes different over there? It's like ham or something.
Everything tastes different.
Everything tastes
It's
different.
good food.
It was so good. So this was just delicious, and that yolk went everywhere. But I just, I wanted to show my little food picture. A little sustenance. All right. So then I will go back. This is behind the pulpit. Modern statue of J.C. Blessing. It's just above and behind the pulpit. No pressure. Sorry. Looks like the last preacher got 2 out of 5 rating from Jesus. And this is the second of the Millennium sculptures in Ely Cathedral. Remember I said there were 3 that were unveiled in the year 2000. The first was that Road to Calvary. This is Jesus. This is made from driftwood, which the artist who made it, that's kind of his thing. So it's wood, but it looks like metal, doesn't it? And Jesus, I gotta say, looks pretty nice. He looks kind of friendly, so that's good. All right. Okay, no words. Can't believe we were all the way up there. We climbed. Those are the windows of the angels right there, where I opened it up, opened it up and looked down. So, and these are the apostles. Remember the 12 windows I told you about, one with each apostle? It's just stunning, and it looks like one of those woven, those yarn beauty things that you make. Okay, so now we're in the choir. It's all wood. You see there's the candles and the books for praying. Again, there's the 1, 2, 3 of the arches. That's the octagon tower. That's the nave with all that kind of ceiling painting. Okay? Mm-hmm. Sitting in a choir for evensong might just be in the top 3 places on earth for Wim and me. Mm-hmm. It's true. I think we knew each other in a past life as monks in some cathedral in England. Because we go there and we just don't want to leave. And more on that later. I might actually try to do a sabbatical around evensong in cathedrals. So note that there are biblical stories carved in wood above. And I've got a few pictures I'm going to show you. I believe this is called high relief. The sculptures they go really far back. They're really 3D. As opposed to sometimes you see like marble and it just barely comes out of the marble. It's like low relief. So these are high relief. It's beautiful. These are decorative pipes for the organ. They aren't the real pipes, I was told. The real pipes are kind of in the back, behind scenes. It's really pretty painted. This is the high altar, perhaps only used on special occasions. Lacy Rood choir screen. Lacy choir rood screen with octagon tower. So that's what separates the choir from where the altar is in the center and that transept, and then the nave. Again, you see the paintings there. Okay? So here are some. So do you know what this depicts? Who fought? Sacrifices? I'm just going to tell you. Cain and Abel. First murder. There he is. Looks like they've been to the gym. And then here's, what's this? Noah's Ark. Well done. Interestingly, they depict a cow gone overboard and a carrion bird eating its intestines. I don't remember that in the Bible, but it's possible. All right, and then, what's this one? Jonah the whale. Well done. Look out, Jonah. I didn't say in the Bible that it came up on land to get him, but apparently this is what they believe. And then this is a little bummer. New Testament?
Slaughter of the innocents.
Holy Innocents, yeah, the slaughter of the Holy Innocents when Jesus was born. That was not good. And then, what is this?
Judas betraying.
The Judas kiss. Judas betraying Jesus, yes. And what about this last one? What's happening here?
Oh, Thomas.
Yes, Thomas at the resurrection. I gotta say, there's something about it. All I can think is he's giving Jesus a raspberry. He's like, you know how you would do that when you were, okay. Is that going too far? Okay. But I don't know, so he's just, I don't know, he's hugging him. He's so happy to see him. But those are those nice relief sculptures in the choir. Here's a stained glass window in the Etheldreda Chapel. It's very pretty. I didn't take too many stained glass pictures because you zone out after so many. Bishop Butts, I don't know, it just made me laugh. And, I just thought it was funny. I understand he was a good guy, though. But that name. Okay. Conversely, near the back, one side aisle, this is a very raw homage to 6 choristers lost in World War II. These are their names. And it says, to the memory of old choristers of this cathedral church who died in the World War, 1939 to 1945. Those are their names. There's a cross, very raw. It says, they sing a new song before the throne. It's just a little thing in the wall. One last view into the choir and apse with the high altar. That's the high, looking in. I lit a candle here for the people of St. Luke's Los Gatos. That's the Etheldrada Chapel. I really do think of you guys. I want you to know. I think of you and I pray for you. So I think it was this candle right here. So. Ely has the largest lady chapel attached to any British cathedral. It's huge. And this is Mary, and I'll say more about her, but look at that big, beautiful window. And it says down here, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. Okay, there's steps leading up to that. It's huge. Big meetings and soirees are held here. In fact, they were having like a Friends of Ely Cathedral function that day, and they were setting up refreshments there before evensong. And so see how big that is? It's very big, and the ceiling is beautiful. So this is the modern statue of Mary that's in there. Somebody called, was it you, Ted? Called her they call her Touchdown Mary?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the nicer things she's been called. It's apparently not very beloved. One article in the 2007 issue of The Guardian in England, the church is no stranger to bad art. And the subheading is, even serious artists can be reduced to feeble fakery by a religious commission. Where are the iconoclasts now that we really need them? The iconoclasts are the ones that busted up the statues. Okay. So that's kind of harsh. That is the third of the Millennium sculptures in Ely Cathedral unveiled in the year 2000. I mean, it kind of doesn't go, but I don't know, it's just, someone said to me, I hope she wasn't wearing sneakers. I don't know. I mean, it's great to have such a beautiful big chapel devoted to Mary, but that feels off to me. But there we are. And then this is one of the few remaining medieval wall paintings in Ely Cathedral in St. Edmund's Chapel, the side chapel, depicting his martyrdom at the hands of Vikings, Normans, in 870. He refused to renounce his Christianity, and so he was tied to a tree and shot through with arrows. So it's a little hard to see, but it's one of the few medieval paintings that are still there. All right. Look who surprised me by showing up for evensong in the afternoon. And doesn't the light make Ely Cathedral look like a painting?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? There are no filters used on there. But there I had spent the whole day in Ely. He's like, I've been there too many times. Well, he takes the train from Cambridge and shows up, just happens to wander around and say, oh, hi. So that was very sweet to see William. And we went to evensong together. This is a view of so before evensong, we had a little time, so we went back to the main street. This is a view of that West Tower from Ely's main street. These flags, I believe, were up on purpose for the Queen's 70th year of reign. I don't know what the name is for that. Jubilee something. Anyway, it's just kind of a cute little scene. Oliver Cromwell's house is nearby. It was closed by the time he got there. He lived 10 years in Ely before heading up England's Civil War, having King Charles I's head chopped off in 1649 and bringing Puritan rule to England for a decade. This was when they really got to busting up pretty church windows and lopping off saints' statue heads. So it says, so funny, Oliver Cromwell's house, visitor attraction, in case you weren't sure. But this next one, it cracked me up. They have an escape room in Oliver Cromwell's house, which is just depressing. Oliver must be turning over in his grave, but hey, you gotta pay the rent somehow. So, his house is an escape room for fun. So there we are. And here's his house, nice little kind of Tudory looking thing. And time for dinner and a pint of Guinness after a long day's cathedral tour. And Rico bids adieu to a perfect day in a perfect cathedral. and we took the train back to Cambridge, and that is your virtual tour of Ely Cathedral. I will just say, there was something in the people who work there and volunteer there and who were milling about and having their kind of friends of the cathedral day. There's a real pride. I got this sense that this is our cathedral and we live here, and there was just you get the sense that these places form communities, and I sort of think it's all slipping away. There's a generation that when they pass away, people aren't going to care as much about this cathedral. So it was lovely to sense that, and it made me wistful. It's like, I wish I lived in an English village and was part of the Friends of the Cathedral and would be a docent and had because the guys who did the tour, the women who did the tour, they've been there for decades. So there we are. So thank you very much, and then I will entertain questions. Father Ernest.
I just wanted to say an experience there. I'd gone there once because you have to sign up to do brass rubbings there. I've done Bishop Goodrich in black and gold, which is every bishop I've ever had has envied that. And then Dean Tyndale, who was burned at the stake for translating the Bible into English. And so it was taking a little longer than I thought it would. And so they basically closed everything down. And the verger came up and said, "Excuse me, Father, but would you mind if the college choir practiced with the organ?" I said, "I guess not." So with the sun streaming through the windows, it was gorgeous. As I was all by myself hearing this magnificent organ. You can imagine the acoustics with the choir and organ. It was just a holy moment. It really was great.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments? Frank.
Quick question. Do you know how long the Benedictines were there? I very fond of them, and they're not known for cathedral building. They're more known for strong ales and liqueurs. So I was
That's
just
why you're
wondering,
fond of them, right?
Maybe that's why it collapsed. I don't know, but I was just curious as to how long they may have been there.
So I will make a little guess at that. Your timeline on the handout I gave you, in the year 970, the Benedictine monastery was founded, and I'm just going to guess that when the Normans came through and conquered Ely in 1070, or at least started building the cathedral in 1081, that kind of put the kibosh. No.
I don't
What do you think?
It was until Henry VIII.
Right.
It wasn't until Henry VIII.
VIII.
So, what was it? But it was a cathedral and not a monastery? Or it had monastery buildings attached to it? Thank you. So you've got from the year 970 to the year, say, 1549. No. Yeah, whatever I said. Yes.
Father, the statue of Mary in their chapel, they don't call it Touchdown Mary, do they?
I don't know. You're the one who told me.
Okay, when I was on a tour with other Americans, we knew that the parallel was on the campus in South Bend of University of Notre Dame. You can see from the open end of the football stadium to the huge library facade with this mosaic of Touchdown Jesus.
Oh.
Arms raised, you could see from the hall, everybody cheering in the stadium. So that's where so this was Touchdown Mary. Someone had probably just thrown a Hail Mary pass and it worked, probably. Holy Cross.
Okay. Thank you, Ted. Colin.
We used to go to orchestral concerts and choral concerts in Ely Cathedral, and for some special concerts, they would send the trumpets and the other brass players up into the octagon and have them right up there, open the doors. And so the trumpet sound would be just descending, basically descending from heaven. That was sort of glorious. The other thing was that the dean, maybe some other officials, really were not too keen on having secular concerts. And one of their rules was, at the time we were there, was you could have an orchestral concert, choral concert, but there was to be no applause. So you would have concert come to a grand finale and then this sort of silence. And it felt so odd. And then you sort of creep out in silence. But anyway, no applause because that was anti-religious.
Wow.
So bear that in mind at the end of my posters. You're
Well,
not
you didn't
supposed
get
to.
any of yours this morning, so
Well.
there you are.
So there we are.
Wow. Thank you, Colin. Thank you. Another comment? Was it Warren or Nan? Mother Nan?
For the next 35 years, Ricardo's gonna do one of these presentations and go to each cathedral in England, so just get ready for the next one.
We're passing the hat. Thank you. Was there another question or comment?
Next year, Lincoln.
Oh, I love Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln.
Yes. So just so you know, I am serious. I get a sabbatical and I'm thinking of going in fall of 2024, and it's 3 months, assuming the vestry approves. It's in my contract. But I want to go hear evensong in different cathedrals in England and experience them. And part of the reason I wanted to do this was to kind of see if can I bring stuff back and share with you? Because I take photos all the time. It drives William crazy, but then he wants the photos afterwards. So I may do that in a couple of years, so stick around.
Don't forget Wells
Yes.
and Durham.
And I love Durham, yes. I haven't been to Wells, you talked to me about Wells, yes.
Wells is fabulous. It didn't lose any of those wonders.
Oh, really?
Cromwell didn't get them.
You didn't get that far, that's good. Any last comments or questions? All right. Thank you all so much for coming, yay. To thank you for staying through the whole thing, I have some souvenir cards of one of the photographs I took of Ely Cathedral with envelopes. You can send one to a friend, you can share them. However, I only have 24. And so, I don't know how to do that. And there are about 30 of you here. So I'm going to just leave them up here and invite you to take. Actually, I'll just hand them up. Anyway, so thank you so much. Carry on. I'm going to leave them up here. Do take them. Don't be shy.
We're on the second floor.
All right.